The disaster spirits are a gathering of extremely powerful, special grade spirits with the goal of overthrowing the human race. Each one is incredibly powerful, has a domain expansion, and usually requiring multiple high-level sorcerers to even stand a chance. Due to this, I have wondered what would happen if the curses got to turn the tables, and if Dagon, Hanami, Jogo, and Mahito all working together could take down Yuta Okkotsu. To put this more simply, could Yuta solo the big bads of the first 2 seasons of Jujutsu Kaisen? I will be touching on some manga spoilers in this video, but I'll more or less restrict what I say to the bare essentials. For those of you who stick around, a subscription is much appreciated as always. I plan on making more JJK content in the future, so if you like this stuff, then hopefully you stick around. With that in mind, we have a lot to go over, so let's get started. Like I said, the disaster curses are all special grade and thus among the strongest of cursed spirits. As explained, curses are born from negative emotions like fear, and many powerful spirits are born from legends and fairy tales, while the disasters are born from natural disasters, and should logically be much more powerful compared to most special grades. The only people that outright stomp them in the series are Toji Zenin, Ryoma and Sukuna, and of course, Gojo. That said, you'd be surprised by how much people downplay some of them, with some of them honestly saying that Hanami is getting folded by Nanami. Great name choice, by the way. I hope to explain both who wins the fight and a fair and accurate scale on how strong every character actually is. Dagon is capable of holding off Nanami and Maki, blocking their attacks, and almost one-shotting Maki. With his domain, he was able to mop Maki, Nanami, and Naobito at all the same time, despite Nanami being comparable to Yuji at this point, and Naobito being hailed as the second fastest sorcerer. Had it not been for Toji's intervention, these 3 and Megumi all would have died. Hanami was able to solo stomp most of the Tokyo and Kyoto schools at the same time, with one arm tied behind their back, including Megumi, Inumaki, and Maki. The same Maki who with Playful Cloud damages Dagon within his own domain, gets blocked with only minor damage by base, holding back Hanami. At full power, Hanami is able to have a pitched battle with Yuji and Todo at the same time, despite Yuji hitting a record-breaking Black Flash and Todo's insane Boogie Woogie strats. Yuji at this point being on an entirely higher level compared to when he was already able to fight alongside Nanami. It is then confirmed in the chapter extras that the combo Yuji and Todo hit Hanami with would have instantly destroyed Jogo, showing his sheer toughness. It also states that Jogo is only stronger on technicality of his flame-based curse technique, implying that otherwise the 2 of them should be near the same level. In Shibuya, Hanami combos alongside Jogo, hitting Gojo at the same time with domain amplification, backing up the 2 of them being close overall. This brings us to Jogo, who has a few things that give him the edge against Hanami. According to Gege's fanbook, when asked if Geto could control the disasters with his ability, he said yes, but that Jogo would be difficult. It's explained that to control curses, Geto needs to either be 2 grades higher than the curse, or needs to weaken them. Either way, for Geto to have a hard time controlling Jogo but not Hanami would suggest he's better in combat, despite being explicitly less durable on top of that. Geto also says he wanted to get Jogo's technique, but makes no mention of Hanami. He's also pretty explicitly stronger than Dagon. In his final battle, Jogo gets mopped by Sukuna, but earns the praise of someone hailed as the king of curses and is called strong even among those he fought in the past. This is high praise coming from the strongest in an era called the Golden Age of Jujutsu, and someone who just finished trash-talking Choso who just gave Yuji the fight of his life. Jogo's maximum meteor was even strong enough that Sukuna acknowledged it would do some damage if it hit him. It didn't hit him, but Dagon also implies Jogo is the fastest among the disasters, using him as a benchmark to compare to Naobito, who is the second fastest Jujutsu sorcerer. So you can imagine that while relative, Jogo is stronger than Hanami with his curse technique, superior speed, and more than likely better combat IQ, based on Jogo's better performance against Gojo in that regard. Mahito is the leader of the disasters and was put there for his immense potential, which even Nanami recognized in their very first fight. The same fanbook that says Geto would struggle controlling Jogo holds Mahito in the same category, putting him safely above Hanami even in his base form, as this is before his final power-up, which according to him doubles his power. He fights Yuji and Todo at the same time, both much stronger compared to when they fought Hanami and spamming Black Flash and Boogie Woogie combos the whole time. Mahito is able to hold them off, nearly splitting Yuji's skull and taking down Todo with a domain of just 0.2 seconds. After evolving, turning into Instant Spirit Body of Distorted Killing, Mahito bodies Yuji in hand-to-hand and is so physically powerful he can't even scratch him. Ultimately, Mahito would have won if it wasn't for that last-minute clutch by Todo, the damage he sustained by Nobara, and an all-or-nothing Black Flash from Yuji. If you consider that this form was Mahito's true form, in his own opinion, it could be seen that this is his full potential, and if Jogo made Mahito the leader based on his potential, then it stands to reason that this version of Mahito would surpass Jogo. It also makes sense seeing as even before this, Mahito was able to recover much quicker than either Choso or Jogo from Gojo's domain expansion, showing that his recovery speed or cursed energy control is above them. Mahito's most dangerous trait, however, isn't his strength, but his ability Idle Transfiguration, which lets him manipulate the soul of anyone he touches with the palm of his hand. He can manipulate his body, turn transfigured humans into weapons, launch masses of flesh, create attack specialists capable of harming Todo, and if he activates his domain expansion, he can instantly activate his ability on anybody trapped within. He is a top contender for the strongest cursed spirit we've seen in the series. Yuta is considered by many the second coming of Gojo. After accidentally cursing his crush Rika, her soul transformed into a curse with boundless cursed energy that even Gojo seemed a little pressed about. He is then pursued by Suguru Geto, who wants Rika's power to change the world, and Yuta defeats someone that 10 years ago was considered one of the strongest Jujutsu sorcerers and a rival to Gojo in his youth. Yuta has trained a lot since Volume 0, mastering Rika's power and developing his own domain expansion. It's to the point that when Gojo is about to get sealed, Yuta is the first person he thinks of, and while Geto disagrees, he later does go on to say Yuta is someone he needs to be wary of. After the Shibuya incident, Yuta actually appears, and his sheer presence is enough to terrify Yuji, Choso, and Naoya Zenin. Naoya is so scared, in fact, despite his ability to blitz Yuji and Choso so bad they can't even see him, that he regrets threatening Megumi when Yuta was around. He then bodies Yuji, stronger than ever while not even trying that hard. Many people use this fight to downplay Yuta, saying Yuji was able to defend himself from Yuta while being somewhat mentally nerfed. However, Yuji himself says Yuta could chop him to pieces, and Yuta's overall demeanor definitely implies he was holding back. The fact Naoya was so scared supports this as well, as Yuta would at least need combat speed to fight someone who completely speed blitzes Yuji. Yuji would later say he thinks Yuta could even fight 15-finger Sukuna, who is clearly far stronger than himself. So, trying to downplay Yuta like this is a little silly in my opinion. After having Rika completely pin Yuji to the point he can't even move, he then basically two-shots Choso, showing how much stronger he is compared to high grade 1 tier fighters. He's special grade, so yeah, kinda obvious. In the Culling games, Yuta fights a set of 4 sorcerers, all evenly matched and locked in a deadlock. Yuta systematically defeats all of them, including Ryu Ishigori, who has the highest cursed energy output of every player in the games, including Higuruma, Reggie, Geto, Kashimo, and even Yorozu. Of course, this doesn't mean that Ryu is stronger than all of them, as Kashimo and Yorozu transform their cursed energy into other things, but it's still a high accolade. In their final clash, it is confirmed Yuta's output is only slightly less than Ryu's, and all throughout the fight, Yuta is seen blocking or tanking his Granite Blast with minor damage. On top of that, he can even do damage to Ryu with certain attacks, and Ryu can tank his own Granite Blast as well. All this saying, Yuta should be able to brawl with everyone in the Culling games so far, at least in terms of raw power. Yuta versus Fake Geto is a controversial topic, but at the very least, it's acknowledged that the two of them are around the same level, Geto is clearly at least worried about fighting Yuta and doesn't think he'd just stomp him. He considers him part of Jujutsu High's main battle force, above the likes of Meimei, Kusakabe, Higuruma, an amped Choso, and an amped Yuji. Of course, Fake Geto easily stomped both Yuji and Choso without even remotely trying, using nothing but curse spirit manipulation, which Yuta already kinda beat before. On 2 separate occasions, Yuta is called the second strongest in the modern era after Gojo. This usually gets into many translation battles over what the statement actually translates to, with some people translating the statements differently. To avoid getting super neckbeardy about Japanese kanji, I think the feats more or less speak for themselves. Even if you don't think he is absolutely the strongest after Gojo, he should pretty much be on that level regardless. The only debatable exceptions are Hikari Kinji, Yuki Tsukumo, and an awakened Maki Zenin. Yuta also has a godlike arsenal of abilities due to his copy curse technique, which allows him to copy the technique of anyone who Rika eats a piece of. He has cursed speech, sky manipulation, domain casting Shikigami, and a closet full of cursed tools. And of course, there's Rika, the special grade Shikigami, which is even stronger than Yuta. Even if you don't like the statement that he's the strongest after Gojo, Yuta is definitely a top contender for that title. For the most part, Yuta has the power and speed to outclass pretty much every disaster spirit. The only debatable exception is Jogo, who I'll explain later. Hanami and Mahito are both able to fight Yuji at different points of the series, and are more or less even with him. Both sides can damage each other, tank each other's attacks, and react to each other. Yuta, on the other hand, pretty concretely outscales Yuji, and scales to the upper tier of the cast that doesn't even consider people on par with Yuji as a remote threat. Dagon is in an even worse position since he was pretty much trashed by Naobito before using Domain, and Maki could still damage him prior to her awakening, and inside his own domain when he should be at max power. Jogo is of course more frail than Hanami, meaning Yuta would have no trouble damaging him either. Jogo is somewhat interesting due to his extremely high attack potency and speed. Like I went over, Jogo's max meteor was capable of damaging 15 finger Sukuna if it hit. This coupled with the general statements from Geto and the fanbook, making it seem like overall, his techniques should have more of a kick compared to Hanami, who for the most part got their attacks blocked by Yuji and Todo. The only problem is, for the most part, we don't know how far this extends to. Let me put it this way. How strong is this Fire Blast from Joko? It's stronger than a giant tree from Hanami, sure, but how much stronger? Could he one-shot Yuji or Todo? Could he damage Yuta? Could he damage Toji? We do not know. We do not know the upper limits of what Jogo is actually capable of. That, and the fact that Mahito at his peak should be at least somewhat stronger than Jogo, and Mahito wasn't massively stronger than Yuji, I think pretty much everything in Jogo's arsenal other than Max Meteor should be tossed aside. Max Meteor of course has insane AP, like I already said, but when it comes to damaging 15 finger Sukuna, we, once again, don't know how much damage Jogo would have even done. Would he blown his arms and legs off? Would it have bruised his cheek? Again, we do not know. Yuta has reverse curse technique, so even if he was hit, he'd likely shake it off the same way he did with Granite Blast. That's of course, if it hits, as Maximum Meteor was so slow that it could get reacted by Panda and Kusakabe, both of which are expressly insignificant compared to Yuta by their own admission. All in all, I think Yuta's either just going to take minor damage from Max Meteor, or he'll just dodge it outright. Jogo's speed is also weird since he was compared to Naobito by Dagon. Since Dagon says probably, many interpret this as Naobito and Jogo being close in speed, and thus, Jogo is almost as fast as the second fastest sorcerer. I consider this somewhat of a stretch since Jogo and Hanami seems to be moving at relative speeds against Gojo. Although you could say Jogo held back to make their attacks combo for their strategy, I'll go over it regardless for those that think Jogo is that fast. Basically, the argument is that if Jogo is close to Naobito in speed, he should be faster than Yuta. Since Naobito is faster than Yuta, as the second fastest sorcerer. This logic, while not flawed, doesn't mean Jogo is just going to blitz Yuta either, as Yuta's combat speed should be somewhat similar to Awakened Maki's. Awakened Maki, of course, dominated Cursed Naoya, someone stated to have unparalleled speed even when Naobito was mentioned earlier, and was stated capable of annihilating the Zenin clan whenever they so choose, including when Naobito was still alive. So if Maki is capable of combating Naobito, and people faster than Naobito, then Yuta, who Maki holds in high regard, and both are held on the same level of strength, should be able to do the same. It would also be weird, Yuta being special grade and Naobito not. Be really weird if Naobito could just completely blitz Yuta so bad he couldn't fight back or something. Yuji has also seen 15 Finger Sukuna body Jogo to the point Jogo couldn't even touch him, and still thought Yuta would be able to take down Sukuna at that point, so it's very likely that Jogo isn't blitzing Yuta or anything. What makes Mahito difficult is his technique, Idle Transfiguration, which makes it so anyone who can't touch the soul can't damage him, which means Yuta can't damage Mahito, right? When Geto is explaining why he thinks Yuta can't stop him, he explains that Yuta detained Rika's soul. This would imply that Yuta's very cursed energy can affect the soul directly, and each attack from Yuta will be hitting a Mahito's soul. If that explanation isn't enough for you, Yuta can also copy curse techniques by having Rika eat a piece of someone. So as long as Yuta can chop off a piece of Mahito, or if Mahito makes a double of himself or uses his body as projectiles, then Rika can eat that and Yuta can use Idle Transfiguration. And if that explanation isn't enough for you, Yuta has way more cursed energy than Mahito does. If it comes down to a battle of attrition, Yuta would undeniably win. However, Yuta doesn't just get to fight each disaster one-on-one. He has to fight each of them at the same time. Mahito's insane toughness and Idle Transfiguration, Jogo's immense firepower, Hanami with cursed energy draining buds and a debilitating flower field, and Dagon, all jumping Yuta at the same time. Yuta's arsenal is going to play a huge factor here, as he's pretty uniquely suited to fighting multiple opponents at the same time. Not only does he have Rika, but he's used her to fight multiple opponents before during the Culling games, and each of these fighters are on Yuta's level in terms of stats, showing Yuta's sheer versatility and skill. He's fought wide-range Shikigami users, brawlers, both of which cover most of what the disasters can actually do. Cursed Speech serves as a good wide-range offensive option to help him temporarily disable or damage all the disasters at the same time, seeing as even people on Yuta's level couldn't resist this technique. Daruve's Hair Shikigami would also serve as good crowd control, as we know that Kuroshi, another wide-range Shikigami user, was so terrified of fighting him that he went into a dormant state until he died. And if Yuta ever gets his hands on one of the disasters, he's able to release positive energy from his hands and mouth, which could one-shot a curse on par with base Yuta, aka stronger than any individual disaster. And we've already seen Gojo fight the disasters at the same time, plus Choso, and pretty much win had it not been for Geto's interference. Of course, Yuta is no Gojo. However, the circumstances here heavily favored the disasters. Gojo had to fight around hundreds of civilians, couldn't use red, blue, or purple, and couldn't use a normal domain expansion. Meanwhile, the curses went in with a plan and time to prepare. Despite being severely nerfed, Gojo was still able to take down Hanami and would have defeated all of them while they were paralyzed by Unlimited Void. Now imagine instead a full power and unrestricted Yuta without having to worry about civilians against an unprepared set of disasters. I don't think this is a one-to-one comparison by any means. I think Yuta's performance in Sendai Colony is a more direct showing of Yuta's skill in group fights. However, it serves as a supporting piece of evidence of how someone far stronger can deal with the disasters, even when nerfed beyond belief. Overall, while I think this is an extremely difficult fight, I think Yuta has more than enough capability to take down the disasters even if they jump him. He is stronger, faster, has counters to most of their abilities, and there's a precedent of Yuta and Gojo doing something like this already. I hope you guys liked the video as usual. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.